happy music right there. That's at least what it's described here. I'm a happy man, for the most part. Marky Billson, Tri-City Sports Now. Why am I happy? Because I'm on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. Because I've been nominated for having the best sports talk show host and the best sports talk show in the market. Vote for me at Johnson City Press Rankings. I am also able to save you some money down there at Asian House. 10% off for mentioning my name. Go there for lunch right now. Lunch deals are still on. $5.99, that's where it starts. See the menu. GoAsianHouse.com. And really, think sushi. Think the Japanese, because that doesn't knock you out. You know, a lot of rice, a lot of protein, not a lot of fat, and it doesn't knock you out in the middle of the day. And that's big. You know, it's not like a hamburger. It'll knock you out. Not like something fried. So that's something to think about. Another reason why I'm happy. I'm on the air talking with you, living the dream. That's another reason in all this. But also, you know, Asian House opens up on Tuesday every week. And, you know, check out their menu, goasianhouse.com. But another thing that is opening up tomorrow at 8 a.m. in Irwin, Tennessee, is Food City. It's right off exit 37. If you're coming in off the interstate, nestled in behind the fast food restaurants, you know, if you're going towards Main Street from the interstate, it's on your right. If you're going from Main Street towards the interstate, it's on your left, obviously. They'll have gas pumps there, but also, I've mentioned this, they open up at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Can you imagine fresher food than 8 a.m. the first day when the doors open at a new supermarket? I mean, you would have to go to the farm for fresher food. And I think that's even debatable right there, you know. So they're open till midnight, too. It's not like the food will lose all of its freshness, you know, that sort of thing. And really, I mean, the farm, you know, are you going to get biscuits at the farm? I mean, think about the bakery. What kind of a farm is it? A corn farm. I get the corn right off the stalk. And before the hour is up, it'll be in the pot boiling for corn on the cob. Sounds delicious. I've done that myself, okay? What about the meat? What about the other veggies? I mean, if you're a cattle farm, you're probably not growing turnips. So that's why you go to Food City. That's why even the farmers go there. 8 a.m. tomorrow in Irwin, right off exit 37. Maybe you want to really get, you know, you don't even want to waste the time to go through the store to pick your stuff up for freshness. I mean, you want ultimate freshness. Go to foodcity.com, place your order online, pick it up as the doors open. Now that's fresh, and that's what's going on there tomorrow. So that opens up as well. There may be an opening for the South Carolina Gamecocks to defeat the Clemson Tigers. You know, they were being asked, Will Muschamp, about being little brother. I mentioned to Caleb Calhoun at allfortennessee.com, you know, that people who ranked media days, SEC, kind of said, okay, Nick Saban keeping his cards close to the vest. He knows who he is. Jeremy Pruitt also, they, you know, did not necessarily hit it out of the park with media days. But one guy, hold on there. One guy it said was Will Muschamp. I really disagree. I thought when he was asked, are you Clemson's little brother? And he says, no, we just aren't. Tell me why. And I could think of a ton of reasons why. Hey, maybe he lost 5 in a row. And I know this makes him look bad because he's lost 3 of those games. But, you know, yeah, we may have lost 5 in a row, but remember, this program won 5 in a row from Clemson before then. That's, you know, so we're this decade 5-5. I mean, you know, depends on what you're looking at. I realize we don't want to live in the past, but is the last decade really living in the past? I'm not living on George Rogers here now. Not that we diminished George Rogers, but, you know, I'm not living on, who else, you know, Frank McGuire, a basketball coach, obviously, but, you know, this is rather contemporary. Players from those teams now in the NFL, you know, you could go that way. You could say we're the SEC, they're the ACC. Go that way. You could say we're Columbia and they're a hole in the wall next to an Esso station. You could go that way. You could do a lot of things. You could say you're the state school. And that means you've got really the predominant fan support in the state So really, is Clemson little brother? You can go that way. But he just says, we're just not. Well, it's not all that convincing. Some people think that's good. But I'll tell you one guy who doesn't think South Carolina's little brother, and it's running back Travian Feaster, because he's switching sides. He is leaving Clemson to join Carolina for his final season. And Feaster is a 5'11", 220-pound senior who is part of Clemson's national championship teams. He is a pretty good running back. Rushed for 1,330 yards and 15 touchdowns in 3 touchdowns with the Tigers. So this is quite the coup for Will Muschamp and company. He went to Spartansburg High, which is really well known, producing football players, really a well-known high school football program in the South. When he went to Clemson, he also could have gone to Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, or South Carolina. Now, he was never the featured back at Clemson, which is probably why he's going to South Carolina, admittedly. But you score 15 touchdowns, and I know that Clemson had some big victories and all this, but I'm inclined to believe that South Carolina just got stronger. I'm inclined to believe they got significantly stronger. Not national championship stronger, not SEC's title stronger, but I'm inclined to believe that they got stronger. So I want you to remember that. So, pretty big running back there. Also in football news, Dolphins have made some news that affects a local product. Daniel Kilgore, who of course injured his arm last year playing for the Dolphins, he's been on this show. Dolphins, not a lot expected from him. I think that they might be the consensus pick for worst record in the NFL. You want to go right down to it. And now that's debatable. I got a list of teams that might implode that was written here by Sam Robinson. I can get to those here in the next segment. But basically, the controversial one is Carolina Panthers. But what have the Panthers really done since the Super Bowl, And you got the Bengals. I think the Bengals will finish in last place. You got the Broncos, which I'm a little surprised about, because I still think the Broncos have a great defense. So I think they'll overcome the Chiefs or the Chargers. No, but I'm not totally counting them out of a playoff berth, especially if Joe Flacco, or for that matter, Drew Lock, has a good year. Interestingly enough, neither will start the Hall of Fame game in 2 days. Houston Texans with Jadeveon Clowney holding out, okay. Jacksonville Jaguars, their big pickup is Nick Foles. It's how far can Nick Foles take you? He's taken teams to the Super Bowl. They've got a great defense. But the question is, do they have the wide receivers? They probably have the back Leonard Fournette. And I know that his yards per carry average hasn't been great, but I think that a lot of that is the number of carries that Fournette has had. If you look at, say, YPC, yards per carry, in the Southern Conference, for instance, Quay Holmes is looked at as the best running back in the conference. Really, 4 or 5, that's hardly a poor average, but it's not among the best of the returning running backs. The reason why, the returning running backs didn't have the carries that Holmes did. Giants, Eli Manning, now the most hated man in the NFL, it seems. Doesn't it? See, people picking him to be the worst quarterback, it's like he was along for the ride. Finally, I had to tell the reporters the other day, we won 2 Super Bowls before Odell Beckham Jr. was here. 49ers, who've done nothing since really Harbaugh experienced the fruits of his decision to start Kaepernick over Alex Smith. Speaking of that, Alex Smith and the Washington Redskins, that's a team that could falter because they don't have Alex Smith. Look how he was hurt, right? And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers giving one last shot to Randy Sanders' old protege. They brought in Bruce Arians at 66. Of course, Arians was present for the initial rise of Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Carson Palmer. And so the idea is that Winston over there, maybe he'll be the magic wand for him. Question is if Winston can be saved in the first place. There you go. And I kind of doubt it, to be honest with you. So maybe could be a long year for Florida football in the pros. Could be the Dolphins, Jags, and Bucks all have losing records. But none of those really, I think, would you bet on any of them having a worse record than the Dolphins this year? Really? So I mention all that. Getting back to the Miami Dolphins, their first-year offensive line coach Pat Flaherty was fired 4 days into camp. He must really have been bad. They went with an analyst for the coaching staff. His name is Dave DiGuglielmo. And, so this isn't necessarily, this was going to be Kilgore's coach, his old line coach. He got a brand new one and all this. Brian Flores is new head coach of the Dolphins. Flaherty had been entering maybe his first year with the Dolphins, but he'd been around for 20 years, so that's where this is sort of like, what's going on? In fact, he was the offensive line coach of the Jaguars the year they went to the AFC title game. Now, DiGuglielmo was the Dolphins offensive line coach from 2009 to 2011. They had a little bit of success, though, during those years. And he rejoined their staff during the past offseason. In 2018, he was the offensive line coach of the Colts. Remember, they made the playoffs, but they started 1-5. Boy, that is, a lot of disarray. You want to know who else I think's in disarray? The Dallas Cowboys, because Zeke Elliott, he's training in Mexico, and he's not in camp, and Jerry Jones is saying, we can win the Super Bowl without him. Are you nuts? They signed Alfred Morris. Morris has been a fine running back in the NFL. Morris has been a guy that you have wanted on your fantasy team. He's been a guy you've taken in the first 2 rounds of your fantasy draft. Thing is, though, he's a backup now. He's 30. Are you really pushing Morris to try to pressure Elliott to resign? We'll see. I mean, Otis Anderson won, years ago. Generation ago, Super Bowl 25. I mean, that's one of the reasons I think that maybe Anderson should be in the Hall of Fame. Think what he did reviving his career after so many years in the league with the Giants, leading to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 25, and really just taking a bunch of handoffs from a quarterback and getting to the point where they could beat the Bills by a point. Yes, Norwood missed the field goal, but from 47 you miss more than you make. That was a bad rap. It was Anderson that won. That's what the Cowboys will probably be trying to do with Morris. Now he's one of what they say 6 backs there to give depth and all that. He's been with the Cowboys before. Zeke Elliott might be the best running back in the NFL. That's very debatable. But he's a legitimate choice. A legitimate candidate. And you lose a player like that, it's going to really hurt. I've heard Colin Cowherd. You've heard the promos on this very radio station, 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. And they say, you know what? Give Zeke the money. He's got you over a barrel. Usually you don't want to give running backs that. Hey, they're a dime a dozen in today's NFL, right? Elliott, though, might be the exception. And I'll say this, some long knives are coming out for Dak Prescott. I think that's insane, but those knives will be much more dull if it is Elliott in the backfield and